Freedom isn't free. That's what they say. It's actually true. When people first join the military, when we raise our right hands and swear to defend the Constitution of the United States from all enemies, foreign and domestic, from that moment until we separate from military service, we lose certain freedoms. So in this video, I'm going to talk about which constitutional freedoms get limited with military service, and I'll also clear up some misconceptions that I've been hearing around social media, specifically as it regards to search and seizure and right to bear arms, dealing with military members specifically. So let's get at it. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into my channel. My name is Ashley Noel, and on this channel we talk about military lifestyles, personal development, and also tips on living and working abroad. I'll start off with this quick disclaimer. Nothing in this video should be construed as legal advice. I do not represent the DoD or the Air Force. If you are a military member and you have legal questions, then you should reach out to your installation's legal office. If you are accused or suspected of a crime, then you should reach out to your installation's Area Defense Council. I do hope you heard that emphasis because there is a difference. So basic question, do military members have the same civil rights as civilians? Short answer, no. There are three primary constitutional rights that are impacted with military service. First, we'll talk about freedom of speech. The major thing here is that military members aren't allowed to act in any way that would bring discredit upon the armed forces, and obviously this includes things that we say. We're also prohibited from acting in any way that could be perceived as harmful to good order and discipline or disrespectful to anyone in our own chain of command. So if a military member wants to make public comments about his service, that's no problem, so long as those comments aren't disparaging to the military or disrespectful to his chain of command. So those are limitations that apply to all military members across the board, but there are additional limitations depending on whether or not you're enlisted or an officer. So for instance, enlisted members aren't allowed to act disrespectfully towards any officer who is acting in the performance of his duties. And also, officers are limited in that we're not allowed to speak negatively about certain individuals or certain bodies. So for instance, the President of the United States, because the President's the Commander-in-Chief, also the Vice President, Congress as a body, Secretary of Defense, Secretary of Homeland Security, Secretary of any of the military departments, the state legislature or the governor of the state where we are either permanently assigned or where we are physically present at the moment. We're not allowed to say negative comments about any of those people or organizational bodies. Next up, I'll do together freedom of assembly and right to protest. Military members can't participate in any sort of partisan political activity, and this is the case whether we are in uniform or out of uniform. It is completely off limits. This limitation is in effect for anything that would be considered as active participation. So examples of active participation would be going to rallies or conventions, participating in political fundraising activities, trying to solicit votes for partisan political candidates, participating in radio or TV programs, or even just group discussions where we are advocating for a partisan political party or a partisan political candidate or a partisan political cause. Even on social media platforms, military members would be able to like or follow a partisan political candidate or cause, but we wouldn't be able to repost or share any sort of comment from that partisan political campaign or cause because that would be considered active participation. The difference is a like is just a thumbs up, whereas a share or a repost is you actively telling people to look at this. That's active participation. And the rule against participating in partisan political activities doesn't just apply to military members, it also applies to civilians who work for the Department of Defense. It applies to them through a federal law called the Hatch Act. So now that we've gone over those three limitations on freedom of speech, right to protest, and freedom of assembly, I'm going to explain why military members can't participate in partisan political activities. I think it should be pretty self-explanatory how it could be detrimental to good order and discipline for military members to speak negatively publicly about their chain of command, so I won't touch on that. But generally, if I'm telling a person that they can't do a thing, I like to be able to explain why you can't do that thing, just so that you don't think it's some arbitrary rule. Basically, what it boils down to is that the United States military is a nonpartisan body. We are not Democratic, we are not Republican, we do not pledge allegiance to any party to any candidate. We pledge allegiance to the Constitution of the United States, and that is it. And honestly, for all of the civilians who are watching, you don't want the military to be partisan. It is very easy to identify which countries in history have gone through periods where their military has started to engage in partisan politics. It's easy because all you have to do is a quick internet search of coups around the world, and there you'll have it. Partisan militaries are not good for democracy. We don't talk about partisan politics in the workplace. Pretty much partisan politics and religion, those are the two topics that are just no-goes in military workspaces. We just don't speak on them. The only time where we do actually speak on social issues, not partisan politics, but social issues, is usually when we have what are called resiliency tactical pause days. So this is when our higher commands tell us to have a down day and discuss hot topics that are going on in the country at the time. So for instance, our most recent resiliency tactical pause day happened as a response to the January 6th storming of the Capitol, and we talked about extremism in the military. January 6th storming of the Capitol, that is just another in-your-face reason why military members do not engage in partisan politics, because the media will absolutely identify you as a military member, and then all of a sudden that person's beliefs, that person's actions represent the military on a broader context. We've also had resiliency tactical pause days to talk about racial discrimination and suicide in the military. So essentially, these resiliency tactical pause days are the military's way of allowing us to come together as a unit and discuss these hot topic societal issues in a way that can better our office spaces and the force as a whole. With that said, I now kind of want to address some of the misconceptions that I've heard around social media with regard to certain rights and privileges of service members. So first up, I'm going to talk about searches and seizures. Military members still retain their rights against unlawful searches and seizures. That does not go away with your military service. So if you're living on base, say you're living in the dorms or in on-base housing, and law enforcement suspects that a crime occurred and evidence of that crime is present in your on-base housing, they still would get a probable cause search warrant to be able to search your home, just like what would happen in the civilian world. Commanders are authorized to perform additional types of inspections, but inspections are different from searches. The primary purpose of an inspection is never to obtain evidence to be used at a court-martial or other disciplinary proceeding. And also, inspections can't target specific individuals. They're usually unit-wide. The primary purpose of an inspection is so that military commanders can ensure the security, military fitness, and good order and discipline of their command. So for instance, a commander can order his entire unit to show up at a specific time on a specific date and provide urine samples to be able to test for illegal drug use. The commander is able to do that because he has the responsibility to ensure that his troops are all fit to fight. But he's not going to call a unit inspection because he suspects one or two members of his unit of using drugs. For that, he would need a probable cause search authorization to be able to search those members for drugs. Another example, for instance, could be that an installation commander could order that all vehicles entering the installation on a certain time at a certain date are searched for any type of contraband. The reason that the installation commander is able to order that type of inspection is because he is at all times responsible for the safety and security of the entire installation. So it is his responsibility to ensure that no contraband is being brought onto the installation. That's an inspection though, it's not a search. And I'll stop right there because I don't want to get too in the weeds with this, but I also don't want people to be misinformed. But throughout the entire process of searches and inspections, law enforcement, command teams, and JAGs, so the military attorneys that are assigned to the installation, are in constant communication to ensure that people's constitutional rights are not being infringed upon and that everything that is happening is legally above board. So again, your right against unlawful searches and seizures is not abandoned with your joining of the military. And the last misconception that I'll touch on deals with the right to bear arms. I've heard around social media that military members are limited in their right to bear arms if they live on base. This kind of goes back to the point that I made earlier about the installation commanders having complete responsibility of the safety and security of their installation. So if you live off base and you have weapons, say you have firearms, then yes, you're able to keep your firearms in your off-base home with you at all times. But when you cross through those gates of the military installation, everything that happens on that installation is under the control of the installation commander. That's it, at all times. He is always responsible for the safety and security of the entire installation. So on a lot of military installations, I will not say all, anyone, military or civilian, is not able to just come onto the installation and roam around with a firearm. Usually they would be required to store that firearm in the installation armory, but then whenever they want to leave base, they can go back to the armory, pick up their firearm, and take it off base with them. So since they have to store firearms in the on-base armory, then yes, people who live on base are not able to keep their firearms with them in their homes. Unless it is part of your job duty to carry a firearm on your person, don't be surprised if you're going to have to store your firearm in the base armory until you want to take it off base. But you still keep your right to bear arms. So if you want to take your firearm and go downtown with it, then as long as that's legally acceptable in your location, that's fine. But when you are on a military installation, you are under the control of the installation commander, and it is his responsibility to maintain the safety and security of that entire base. So I hope you got something from this video. I hope you learned something. If you did, please make sure to hit that like button down below. That helps me know that the information that I'm giving you is useful. If you have any questions about the military generally, feel free to leave a comment and I'll try to answer whatever question that I can. Also, I post new videos every week, so please make sure to hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss my next post. Thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you next time.